Hi everyone, and welcome back to Project No Buy. In today's video, it's another day and another list of things I regret buying. This time specifically in the realms of fashion and the wardrobe. So I have to make this particular video now because I'm decluttering again, slowly but ruthlessly, and when in doubt, I am not necessarily going to completely rehome the item. I might put it away for future use or just to have kind of a holding cell of basics that are kind of more functional than fashionable, dare I say. So all of this prefaced with the caveat that I say I'm decluttering, but I'm not necessarily donating or reselling or rehoming all of this stuff unless it makes the most sense. And I might get into that later as I go through this list and kind of go through the scenarios of when in doubt, keep it versus when in doubt, get rid of it. And a little tidbit I picked up from David Allen's Getting Things Done, a book review that's either already out on this channel or coming soon. So those are some foreshadowing little tidbits there. But anyway, as I've been going through my wardrobe and kind of determining what I functionally actually use. Again, I think I touched on this in the video updating on the wardrobe tracking that I started last year. So you can go check out that video if you want to hear more about this. But as a result of kind of reframing the parameters of the clothes I should actually have, I decided, or I encountered multiple items that I realized just weren't going to get used. And if they're not going to get used in my wardrobe, then they're kind of like employees who aren't doing their job in a way. And unless I can have a conversation with them and see if they actually want to do their job, or if we want to work together, or if they should be rehomed, find a different place to hang in the closet, you know, this metaphor is getting a little convoluted. But the point is, I encountered these things, I realized I'm probably never going to reach for them or use them, and therefore they are now regrets in the sense that if I had never purchased them, I wouldn't be running up against this decision now. And some of these things did get somewhere while I owned them, but most of them never really felt right, or have reached a point where they can never really feel right again. So let me get into it without further ado. And I will be showing you the items as a visual aid today, but I will try to abstain from actually mentioning the brands since they're not actually relevant to even the issues that I had with the items this time around. So let's see how that goes. Let's see how it feels. All right, the first thing I regret buying in my wardrobe, pretty much for all time, is the supposedly iconic plain white t-shirt. And this is actually one of the influencer's most recommended brands and styles. Again, I don't need to mention it because I am not trying to influence you to want or buy this particular one, or even to not buy this particular one. In fact, my regret is to buy any plain white t-shirt, full stop, right? So I, without thinking too much in depth, took the advice of so many fashion influencers online. You know, this is the blank canvas, this is the base for so many cool outfits, or minimalist outfits, or quiet luxury outfits, or any aesthetic outfits really. Like, that's the beauty of the white tee, because it goes with everything. And, you know, the kind of boxy shape makes it easy to wear, and all of these reasons make it incredibly impractical for my wardrobe. So the white t-shirt is basic. Basic to me equals boring, right? There's no identity signals in this at all. And I've had numerous conversations about whether or not your clothes and your stuff signals any identity or should signal identity, right? So I'm not, you know, there's hypocrisy and conflict in many of these ideas, but working on the assumptions of the society we live in, there will be judgments made or assumptions made based on some of the things that you wear and use. And we can't really control that that happens when other people see us, right? We're visual creatures. We're probably making judgments, even if we're working on removing ourselves from the realms of judgment. And this awareness, I guess, let's call it, we can be aware that when somebody sees us wear a shirt that has a graphic on it, right? They might be associating us as the wearer with that graphic. So that's all I'm trying to say with that. I'm not trying to say you should dress for your identity, or that you should not, or that it's good to or bad to, or that we can and can't. You know, like, that's not my argument in this video. Man, I should have chosen a different one to start with, because this is getting maybe more convoluted than the average viewer signed up for. Sorry about that. But this is, you know, devoid of identity, devoid of fun and kind of interest, dare I say. And while that's what makes it great for some people. It's what makes it not great for me. I would never choose this over the shirt with the Van Gogh picture on it or my shirt with the penguins on it. You know, examples of shirts that I actually like to wear that actually make me feel something inside. And luckily I work somewhere that allows graphic t-shirts, you know, that's not too casual. I could understand it if you work in a professional environment where the plain white tee is a workaround because of its lack of identity. And, you know, maybe you could wear this under a blazer in a more professional setting, like fine. If it's functional, great. But not only does the lack of graphic make it boring, but it's also the shape to me that lacks any artistic spark either. So I do still have form-fitting white tees, or one form-fitting white t-shirt, and one graphic as well, one with a... So anyway, I still have white t-shirts, most with graphics on them, and one that's plain but form-fitting, which to me is more inspiring because it has that kind of artistic line of the human body. And it doesn't matter what your shape is, what your body shape is, I think the human body in all of its forms, all of its sizes, all of its identifications is kind of a work of art. So you can wear the form-fitting tee and still be expressing something artistic in my mind. Whereas the boxy one, you know, it's more about the art of the drape of the fabric at that point. And the plain t-shirt, the cotton kind of mid to heavyweight t-shirt, to me is not an artistically draping fabric. And again, this is all my opinion and why this is a regret for me. I guess the other aspect of it is that I did drink the Kool-Aid of the fashion and style influencers, hyping up the white tee, doing all the white tee comparison videos, which is the best white t-shirt, you know. I just don't know why I watched so much of that for entertainment and exposed myself, therefore, to so much influence, so much messaging that I should have a white t-shirt. Not only that I should have one, but that I should have the best one. And, you know, the best one that I can reasonably afford and find and access and feel okay about owning. In other words, you know, there are some white t-shirts that are $70, $80, $100+, and I've never ventured into that territory. And we all have our own kryptonite, right? I've ventured into very expensive jeans territory one time and don't intend to do it again, although that is not a regret. Those might have already made a sneaky appearance in that first wardrobe update video, just for anybody curious about the actual practical use of the expensive jeans. I, again, don't wax poetic about them in that video because, again, my purpose is to not be as focused on stuff. And on that note, let me put this down. But part of the regret of the white t-shirt, getting back to that, is that I was so influenced to want one and then buy one. Think that I should have one. And realistically speaking, I may try to resell this one since it is the best brand of white t-shirt according to some people, and somebody might want it and somebody might appreciate getting a better deal for it. I do have a kind of lower quality boxy white t-shirt, you know, I have two, and I might keep the lower quality one just as a functional item, you know, to wear around the house, or if one of my kids wants to wear a white t-shirt one day and, you know, it'll be too big, but nonetheless, you know, it's a practical item to have that doesn't really necessarily have great resale or rehoming value, and I don't want to donate it in case it doesn't get actually rehomed. And so that might get into the box of functional clothing that's like, when in doubt, keep it, just because there might be a need for it later. It might save a future purchase for a functional item. Oh, I do have to go get this second item on my list, so I will be right back. All right, the second item on my list is these shoes. Now, I have worn these in videos before. I do still like them, right? However, I do not recommend any kind of knitted footwear like this. You know, the whole shtick about them is that they're supposed to be made, or they are made, you know, I'm not saying they're lying about it. They're made out of recycled plastic bottles, at least to some degree, and therefore they're more sustainable, they're machine washable, you know, whether they're actually sustainable is debatable, and that's not the point of this video. The point is that I do not recommend any form of synthetic knitted footwear. I've never had natural material knitted footwear either, and I hesitate to recommend that as well. It just doesn't really seem like a great material for shoes. In the case of these ones, they are kind of an open design, so you may or may not be wearing socks with them, and your feet may or may not get sweaty. I don't tend to get a lot of sweatiness in my extremities, so, you know, hands and feet, but I do get hot, and on a hot day, you know, when I might otherwise choose to wear a kind of open design like this, I find that my feet, the temperature of the shoes, you know, they make my feet hotter than other materials would for choosing a shoe like this. And maybe I can wear them more with socks in the winter season and it's kind of a non-issue, the temperature is fine. But it's just kind of an issue that I haven't ever had with other materials of shoes, sneakers, other flats or boots, I just don't have that. And this makes me conscious, this material makes me conscious of some discomfort in the temperature of my feet. I actually first started the knitted shoe journey with a pair of those sock boots, the tall sock boots. Again, I was influenced, I think the channel A Small Wardrobe wore them all the time and was sponsored by one of the companies that makes these knitted shoes. And I found some on the resale market and never ever wore them, ever. Like literally never wore them out. And what a bad idea, right? A long form-fitting sock boot out of knitted material, like what am I going to wear that with? The boot is going to be too warm to wear with bare legs, but it's also too fitted to wear with any type of pants. Even skinny jeans and tights kind of make it bunch awkwardly. The creator in question wore them a lot, I think, under skirts and dresses without a layer because they live in a climate that might make sense for, or they might just be more comfortable with that kind of dressing, whereas I'm not, so it's kind of like wearing a tall sock with bare legs. And maybe when I was younger, I would do that for looks purposes, but I have reached an age where I will not suffer for fashion anymore. And I refuse to be cold or have cold sections of my body just because I want to have the exposed thigh with the tall sock. Like, I'm not doing that anymore. And not to mention, I can't really wear that to work without getting some possibly notes from personnel managing about the dress code. And so without being able to wear it to work or lounge around in it at home, there are very little places for me to wear garments like that. Anyway, back to these flats. This is the second pair of kind of knitted footwear that I have, and the final pair that I will ever be acquiring. I am going to hang on to these ones because, again, when in doubt, keep it. They are the only shoe in this kind of category that I currently have. And for multiple reasons, it's probably more sustainable to keep it and prevent myself from buying other red shoes even, or looking at other things like that. And for now, it's going to continue to serve as a valuable lesson of why I don't recommend this kind of footwear. And also why I am avoiding influenced purchasing in general. If I didn't have an organic desire for knitted footwear before I saw influencers talking about it, then I sure as hell don't need to buy it. Another thing to add to the list of things that I just wish that I didn't own, had never bought, and still had the money for in my bank account. The third category of things I regret buying is pants. Specifically, pants that fit just right. So both of these pairs of pants were purchased online. I consulted measurement charts, and the waist measurements matched more or less the measurements of my body. So maybe with an inch of added room, for the measurement of the garment compared to my body at the time. And that, as I've discovered now, is not the way that I like to buy bottoms or pants. And nowadays, I would prefer to leave at least 2 or 3 inches of extra room depending on the style of the garment. So this is extra room according to the measurement chart of the sizes, right? So if it says the size small, medium, or large is X amount of inches or centimeters, I would like to have that measurement be 2 to 3 inches larger at least, possibly more, than the measurements of my body. And there are multiple reasons for that, right? Number one is comfort. Number two is I can work with something that's too big. There are belts that exist for that purpose. I cannot work with something that's too small. And if it's also on the oversized end of the spectrum, I will be able to wear it at multiple points on the waist and not just the one highest point where, for example, these pants only work anymore because the waist is so small that I can only really wear them up here. And it kind of limits the functionality of the garment, and it's also not comfortable to do so. I'll sit down and, standing it might be fine, but sitting down is not fine anymore. And then if we have a dinner in there, it just becomes impossible to wear these. And these, again, both of these pairs of pants might be something that I do try to rehome because I just don't know that there will be a use for them in my future. I do not foresee that I will want to wear uncomfortable pants again, uncomfortably tight pants. And I also don't know that anybody in my life will easily fit into these. Unlike the t-shirts that are kind of more one size fits a certain size bracket, these are very specific. Not only are they fixed size in the waist, but they are a fixed length unless you get them hemmed. And I did also get the tall length for both of these styles. The retailer offers a normal length and tall length. So somebody out there specifically might be looking for this size right now. And I am prepared to rehome these, get them a better deal on it if they're looking on the resale market. And again, I don't know if this is just a side effect of aging. I mean, these particular pants were actually not bought with the goal of looking good in mind. I mean, I do buy all of my clothes in the hopes of looking good, right? So getting that out of the way. But it's not like I was trying to look particularly attractive or sexy or flattered in these pants. So it's not as if I wanted my body to be highlighted in particular ways. You know, I'm not looking to attract mates with these types of pants. In my younger days, I might have been kind of dressing with that in mind, and so tighter pants of certain styles might have been okay. But not only are these not the styles that would likely be appealing, and again, you know, this is not a video about dressing for the male gaze or anything like that as a heterosexual woman, but you know, there were times in my life where I might have tried to strategically dress like that. Those times are not now. In fact, that's probably not an advantage to somebody who's married and doesn't want to have issues with their marriage. And so there's no reason for me in the foreseeable future to ever wear pants that are uncomfortable in the name of looking better. So there's that. Got to prioritize the longevity of pants and other garments by building in that sizing flexibility when I buy them. Okay, the next category of regrets is a specific material, and that is the silk shirt. So I have two of them here, and I do think these will be rehomed. So I did wear this black one in a video last year. I wore it in one of my concert black videos and found that the front dips really low. And I really don't care to put in the effort to alter it or have to wear an undershirt under this all the time and then have to be worried about the front dipping down and revealing more of this area than I would like to in a professional setting or even a non-professional setting. Like, I don't really want to have to worry about my shirt when I'm just going about my everyday life. So this will definitely be rehomed. This one has also featured on this channel. I've worn it in multiple videos. I do like it, and it's a tricky one because I remember viscerally when I saw this shirt and saw the color that was a new release on that website at the time. I purchased it online, new from the retailer, and it is an objectively nice looking shirt. Now, there are several problems with it in my practical life use, right? So not only is green not a color that I wear a lot, despite having a deep kind of love for this particular shade and remembering the moment that I saw it and kind of had to have this color. It's 100% silk, which means I can't wash it myself. And it also leans more feminine than my general style does. And I'm going to put it down now so that I can talk about it unfettered. So I'm not getting rid of everything that's silk in my wardrobe. I think there's one dress that remains, but the dress is a formal level garment, something that I would not typically wear to a regular work day. So, you know, I might wear it to a concert or to a wedding or some other setting where I'm not likely to be interacting with situations that would make my clothes dirty. Situations that I'm not likely to be maybe sweating profusely in, or if I am, the dress is cut out, you know, it's open on top so that my, you know, armpits aren't going to be sweating onto an armpit level of material. Sorry if this is TMI, but these are the things that our clothes are supposed to do when they serve us, right? So this is part of the dialogue of whether it's practical to keep something in our lives. So there we are. Sometimes it's TMI. So anyway, despite remembering that feeling in my stomach when I saw that color of being obsessed and having to have it, the practical reality is that the silk shirt is not a good fit for my wardrobe. A shirt is something that I would typically wear for work, or a more casual version would be for lounging around at home, right? But even at a work day, so lounging around at home is definitely a no-go for silk because that's the circumstance where I get dirty. I do have kids, and I don't want to have to be careful about what I allow my kids do when interacting with me, right? I don't want to have to check if they have dirty hands or dirty faces or whatever before I, get close to them. And kind of same goes to work. It's not that I interact with small children on a daily basis, although it does happen sometimes. I just really don't want to have to be careful about how I live and how I exist at work. I don't want to have to think about what I'm coming into contact with, whether I'm sweating too much. And it's just a level of thought that I guess I don't want to have to engage in because of the material of what I'm wearing. So yeah, it's just a no-go, no matter how beautiful the design and the color is these days. And like I said, I still have some kind of silk or silk adjacent items. I have only kept the ones that I know to be washable in the delicate cycle of a washing machine. So I think I have some Cupro items that are, it's not exactly silk, but it's some kind of off-cut material that I have had success with washing. And those I'm a little more okay with keeping because I'm not worried about totally ruining the garment if I do have to wash it. Whereas this shirt I've actually never washed myself. And, that might be gross to the person I might be thinking of passing it on to, but they don't have to know. I don't think they're going to see this video. I do have a specific friend in mind, actually, who I think their style will really match that shirt, and maybe their lifestyle at this point does too. And if they don't want it, then sure, I'll put it up for resale. But it's just one of those things where I remember wanting it so much, and now I can much more logically think through whether the material is going to be a barrier to wearing. And I guess, honestly, it doesn't excite me in terms of style either. And because it's neither practical nor a perfect style match for me, therefore it's not really even worth holding on to. So if it weren't a style match, like the white t-shirt, but it was still practical, comfortable, didn't have to think about it, then it might make sense to keep some of those items for functional reasons. But there's no functional reason to keep a silk shirt. And I really should have known this before buying this. Although I might have had this shirt still at the time. I had a silk shirt from my grandmother, which would have been much more special to keep. It was in a bright fuchsia, kind of pinky purple, with large shell buttons, kind of, what is the word, iridescent shell kind of cut buttons. And that was a beautiful shirt, a beautiful silk shirt from my grandmother. And I did actually pass that one on because I found that I didn't wear it as much. And maybe it was, again, the silk nature of the fabric that I just felt was a little too precious for my style. And if I was going to have one silk shirt, it would make a lot more sense to keep the one that was actually passed down from a family member who's no longer here. But as it turns out at the end of the day, I won't be keeping any silk shirts, so it was just not meant to be. And I will not be buying any more silk garments. No, no. Okay, editing self coming in to speak on this a little bit more, because in my past life of overconsumption, something that I would be likely to do or have been likely to do regarding a situation like this silk shirt, where I still like that color, the green color, and it's just really the material that I didn't really see as practical to keep in my life. Something that I would used to do fairly often is decide to declutter something and in its place look for something. So I would look for something in that same sage green color, perhaps in a different material, thinking that that would solve my problem, and I would do a little one in, one out, maybe resell the silk shirt in favor of something else to get the funds, and then spend the credit from the sale on something new to me. So I used to do this kind of thrift resale flipping a lot, and keep the attributes that I did like about the clothes I was decluttering and use that as a reason to shop for and or acquire something to replace it. And I didn't necessarily approach it through the no-buy lens either. It wasn't like I was consciously saying this is a replacement, so it's allowed to buy or allowed to look for. But it was a habit that I was really deep into. And I'm refraining from doing that this time. I actually don't feel the urge to do it this time because I have a different sense of having enough clothing and having something alternative, right? I have other, like I was saying, silky type material tops that are washable. And I'm not going to shun even something like a polyester top if it's achieving the look I want and practical for my life and washable and not too uncomfortable to wear. And, if it's something I already own. So I have alternatives that are perfectly usable, perfectly fine, that already take the place of this silk shirt. I can wear those more, and I don't feel the lack of having either that color or maybe the feminine style of shirt. I have other things that fit that criteria, and I'm much more quick to see that now and be reluctant to look for something to replace that, or to use the funds from resale as an excuse to shop and replace that. So there's a note on if you're currently stuck in the declutter and buy again cycle, even if you do it through resale, it does change once you start looking at your stuff through a different lens. And in my case, it was through the lens of a no-buy year. Okay, the fifth and final fashion regret is leopard print. You've seen this before if you've been on my channel for a while. I wore it in my December reaction to trends. The leopard print, this is actually a dress, but I guess the leopard print is a trend these days. And every time that it's trending and that I see it a lot on other people, I do kind of have this urge of, oh, I should have something in leopard print. That looks nice, that looks cool, that looks edgy, or whatever I think it looks at the time. So that's why it's been hard for me to let that piece go, because of the seeing it on other people effect and thinking it looks cool on them. So I've kept that so far as an insurance piece to not buy anything in leopard print, but I literally never wear it. The last time I reached for it was in that trends video, just to prove the point of, hey, I already own something leopard print, I don't need to buy this. Now, when it comes to animal prints, I do have a blue printed zebra dress and zebra printed knitted pants. They're kind of more loungewear type pants, but they're black and white zebra print. So it's not that I don't have any animal print if the urge strikes, and I'm not opposed to animal prints in general. But something about the leopard print is just not a match for my style and my style comfort identity, I guess. And I'm going to be doing more chats about style throughout this year, so I will be breaking that down more in greater detail or from other perspectives. So I'm going to leave that point for today and just take it as read. You know, leopard print is not a part of my style identity. And no matter how many times I will sometimes see it on somebody else and think, oh wow, that should be part of my identity, it's just not. And I don't need it to be part of my identity. I don't need to do anything to make it more me. It doesn't have to be part of the things that I like, at least to wear on myself. There's nothing wrong with continuing to appreciate it on other people. The other thing is I do want to kind of graduate from keeping this stack of insurance pieces that literally never get worn and are only here to serve as a reminder to not buy something similar. I want to operate much more on a practical basis of, if I don't use it and don't actually like it, then I don't need to have it. I don't need to play these games with myself of, if I keep this one fabric that's printed in this style, then I won't have to buy any more because I will be able to tell myself I already have one. You know, I want to get beyond that point and think of the actual use value of things in my life. And, you know, to that point, there are kind of exceptions based on things that I genuinely like to see. So in the case of having too many handbags, I'm still not at a point where I want to declutter those because I don't rotate through them enough. I still value kind of seeing them as my decor pieces in the corner of this room. And so unlike the bags, this dress with the leopard print, these silk shirts that are beautiful, I don't get value from seeing those hanging in my closet. And maybe some of you still feel that, where something just being there gives you some value. And I'm not advocating that you should or have to or should get to the point where you will let those go. Like, I'm not advocating this for you. I'm just saying that I'm getting to a point where it feels better to me, at least conceptually, to not have these kinds of things anymore. And if it's possible to rehome to somebody who's actually going to like it and use it and love it and get more functional value out of it, then that is what I would prefer to do. And again, I know that might seem contradictory to some of the things I just said about keeping, for example, the knitted shoes for functional reasons, even though I don't totally love them. But it is a little different in my mind because I do still get functional use out of them. And I can appreciate the value of the service they serve, the purpose they serve in my life. Whereas things like the silk shirts and the leopard print dress don't really serve a purpose in a functional way at all. So again, going back to my wardrobe rules of, do you like it and do you use it? Or, you know, flip those. Do you use it? Do you like it? If it's not fulfilling any of those rules, those two principles, then it's got to go now. And that's my new criteria, at least for 2025. And now finally, this is a little bit of a spoiler alert maybe for a video to come. But I had to make this video today because the things that I am firmly decluttering, I need to list on the resale apps today. And then I need to take the resale apps off my phone. So this is a little bit of an accountability moment between us here. I will be confessing in a later video that I had some no-buy slip-ups and or exceptions that were arguably planned but arguably not. I'll discuss in that video regarding the resale apps, because I was on there managing the things that I have for sale. But even with things that I have listed, I do not need to have the app on my phone. And so this is the accountability moment. I will list the things that I'm planning to list today and then get the app off of my phone. All right. I'll report back on that later, maybe at the end of this month or beginning of next month. All right, so that is 5 things or 5 categories of things that I regret buying in the wardrobe. And I would love to hear if you have unearthed or uncovered any kind of new to you regrets as you have been going through your things, perhaps in the process of doing a no buy year, no buy challenge. I would love to hear your stories, love to hear your experiences, love to hear the things that you will never buy again, in the wardrobe or otherwise. The things you will never buy and what reasons you have for that now. Things you've learned. All right, bye for now, and I will see you in the next one.